Alright, so before coming here, I heard the coverage of the American president's speech at the UN on Danish television, and boy, that was quite something. I don't know if dude had employed a tactic of imagine all of them being naked so that you get more confidence, and instead decided to imagine all of them being Kamala Harris, because I got serious flashback to that debate.
Jesus Christ.
Bruv was on demon time, rapid firing falsity after falsity. Weird ass joke, perhaps hoping for that Kamala cackle.
No.
From claiming that he has stopped like 6 to 7 wars while the leaders of the very countries like Cambodia and Sudan that he mentioned were sitting right there in front of him, to arguing that countries should forget about their great initiative and that they would go to hell if they continued to pursue those alternatives. Like, bruv, come on. And of course, on a domestic level, he claimed that the US was the hottest country, for which I initially thought that, oh, perhaps it's gonna be one of those things where we can do the stuff that a lot of his administration would do to try to sane wash what he says, and so we can interpret that as him perhaps meaning that the temperature in the US is too hot, both figuratively
Everyone in McKinney is
literally.
dead.
Because I've been in the process of editing a video about some stuff in the US, where I had some stats shared with me by family members who are living close to farmers in their community. And when dude said that the grocery prices were down, which is just a flat out lie, it isn't so for neither the US or many other countries, that mortgages were down.
Mortgage rates are down, and inflation has been defeated.
Again, a lie, and that inflation was defeated. I fucking lost it. Like, bro thinks that inflation is like a Mortal Kombat character that he can just beat. The whole thing rigged of like annoying uncle who's just drunk and you just can't shake him off. Think of like a popular speech from who's a good comparison here? William Harrison, the 9th president in the US, right? Who had that long ass speech and died. The orange man had a whack ass speech and we all died inside. Like, optic wise, I expected this to happen, right? Because he can't help himself. He always has to do these kind of things. But you are at the UN with every other countries that are members, of course, where the point is to cooperate with them and not try to force people to bend the knee, but all that you do is just talk shit and complain over your yandere dementia-filled yaoi rival. Sometimes I surprise myself. Joe Brandon, because of course when lying over his own country wasn't enough, he started attacking the lads across the pond with the mayor's Sadiq Khan, perpetuating the claim of him backing Sharia law, which literally came from a fabricated Facebook quote that was debunked about a month ago. It was spread way more before that, of course, but that even misspelled the word Sharia to Shakira. So the full quote should have been Shakira law. Bruv, those failing hips did lie. And speaking of failing hips, there was of course the whole thing with the escalator, and some people were trying to sane wash the fact that he had to wing his speech because of the failing teleprompter. Both issues which were caused by his own staff. Like, what is going on? Like, he is, by all intents and purposes, the harbinger of brazenness. Like, the death of shame follows in his wake. But now, of course, there's been reporting that he is going after autism with the help of none other than his pale horseman, the Central Park menace, RFK Jr. Now, if some of you might be wondering, why are you pressing your brain so much to come up with all kind of adjectives and descriptors to make fun of the situation? It is simply because of current overuse of power by the administration to kind of censor people. Like, yeah, we understand that there is a certain degree of like social recourse that people should be facing for the stuff that they say. But when you straight up involve the government to censor people's free speech, I think it only invites more scrutiny. And while of course I'm not American, I still think that the 1/3 of my audience should stand against bullying, especially when it's from the government. But now of course DJT and RFK apparently have solved autism, or at least have found something that links it to paracetamol, which is what we call it here in Europe. Some of you might call it Max Payne's favorite snack, or I guess the common denominator here that I see is being called here in articles, Tylenol, which is like a popular brand at least of painkillers. And as a neurodivergent person myself, I am interested in kind of understanding what is going on here. Alright, gotta set up some graphs here. Let me guess about the rising levels of autism.
Hello, everyone.
Bro, so low energy. What's going on?
Thank you very much. So I've been waiting for this meeting for 20 years, actually. And it's not that everything's 100% understood or known, but I think we've made a lot of strides.
Okay. So I'm sorry. It's like I guess I kind of get where this is coming from. Obviously, with scientific finding, nothing is 100% certain. I've described this before. One of the reasons why we don't always call every single thing facts and still remain with the term theory, which is still the highest degree of certainty that we have within the scientific field, is because of numerical certainty. We don't get things at 100%. Yet, you know, coming from him making this announcement, you know that we're about to hear some absolute nonsense.
Wish it was done a long time ago. Today, we're delighted to be joined by America's top medical and public health professionals as we announce historic steps to confront the crisis of autism. Horrible, horrible crisis.
It's not a crisis.
The man who brought this issue to the forefront of American politics along with me. And we actually met in my office, is it like 20 years ago, Bobby? It's probably 20 years ago in New York.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry for pausing so much, but I need to clarify something. Besides, first and foremost, discount Jerome Powell from Timu over there, there is no autism crisis. It's not an explosive thing. It's neither contagious, it's not exploding out of nowhere, and it's not environmentally contagious. Believe it or not, RFK's, one of his cases is to literally state that the environment that people are putting themselves in is literally causing the rise in autism. That's not it at all. All data points to the rise in autism diagnosis stems from the changes in diagnostic criteria. There is a thing called the DSM, aka the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of mental disorder, which is literally like the autism Bible that a lot of doctors are using to search for signs of autism. And back in like the early days when these things was being like actually thoroughly studied, they based it a lot for children especially on the development. So if children were developing at a normal rate, so if they were reading and writing in the right rate as other students, they will not ping at all. And that's not good enough. The attitudes alone were not good enough indicators because autism can manifest in many other ways. There are some people who will find out that they actually had some stuff on the autism spectrum by, I don't know, going to very stressful math classes or a particularly difficult D&D sessions, because the great 1980s Dungeons and Dragon panic was of course the cause of all illnesses in children. It was only until the DSM-4 of the 90s that expanded the criteria of autism that we kind of had this social shift, and more people started being screened for that. Additionally to that, you have parents who, alongside caretakers, teachers, and many people who are involved in overseeing the development of a child, right, who gained the awareness of it. And like, I have a kid, okay? We literally had our kid screened at the age of 2 by an official at our municipality to check out how she spoke, her behavior, and all of those things, because you kind of need to go through these processes when they need to figure out what's going to happen if you want to apply to a certain school or public school for your child. That's how we do it over here. And then the person who came to do it, the lady who did that, she started formulating a bunch of rudimentary questions that my girlfriend and I, given that we both are neurodivergent, I have a narcolepsy and she has ADHD, we kind of understood what the hell was going on, right? But this all comes from us being way more aware. Additionally to that, you have more representation in media. You have stuff like there's a show, Love on the Spectrum, that has helped a lot of people to get rid of the stigma about how autistic people actually are. And while I dislike the show itself, I think that just saying the word bazinga would lead you all to understand where I'm going with this. So taking into account all of these things, even while correcting for the rise in population, is what has contributed to the rise in autism. Not some weird chemicals in the water that turns the children more into X-Men. I am using that analogy because a lot of the aspect on the autism spectrum actually, to me, feels like superpowers.
I was a developer, as you probably heard, and I always had very strong feelings about autism and how it happened and where it came from. And right. He and I don't know, the word got out, and I wouldn't say that people were very understanding of where we were, but it's turning out that we understood a lot more than a lot of people who studied it, we think.
We think. Bruv, I'm sorry. I understand the whole appeal to emotions that politicians tend to do by trying to tell a story. But mate, you are here to talk to us about Tylenol or acetaminophen, the actual medical term. Do you mind reading your paper?
And I say we think because I don't think they were really letting the public know what they knew. Thanks as well to the director of the National Institute of Health, Dr. J. Bhattacharya, FDA Commissioner Dr. Marty McCary. These are great people. Administrator of the Centers for Medicine and Medicaid Services, Dr. Mehmet Oz.
Oh my God. It's the gray hair. I didn't recognize his Dr. Oz. Oh, wow. This administration, my God. RFK, perpetuator of conspiratorial nonsense. Dr. Oz, MLM guy who has spread just as much misinformation. Bruv has surrounded himself with idiots.
Acting Assistant Secretary of HHS, Dr. Dorothy Fink. So thank you all. Thank you, Dorothy, very much. The meteoric rise in autism is among the most alarming public health developments in history. There's never been anything like this. Just a few decades ago, 1 in 10,000 children had autism. So that's not a long time. And I've always heard, they say a few, but I think it's a lot less time than that. But whether it's 1 in 12 or 1 in 31, can you imagine? That's down from 1 in 20,000, then 1 in 10,000. And now we're at the level of 1 in 12 in some cases for boys. 1 in 31 overall.
It's also important to note what is classified as autism, because the spectrum that is covering it all has been widened for quite a bit. So when dude says 1 in 12, what are we pinging on here?
We have to find out, because when you go from 20,000 to 10,000 and then you go to 12, there's something artificial. They're taking something.
What?
And by the way, I think I can say that there are certain groups of people that don't take vaccines and don't take any pills that have no autism.
Oh, no.
That have no autism.
Oh, no. What is he going to say?
Does that tell you something? That's currently... Is that a correct statement, by the way?
There are some studies.
The Amish?
With the Amish, for example.
Yeah.
Why are they so fucking predictable? Oh, my God. Oh no, these guys are not too close to technology. Technologia is causing more. Oh my God.
Amish, yeah, virtually.
Can you believe that?
I didn't know. I heard none. See, Bobby wants to be very careful with what he says, and he should, but I'm not so careful with what I say. But you have certain groups, the Amish as an example.
Okay, let's be very careful here. We haven't gotten to the raw data just yet. But I don't want you to present me any information if you're coming at it with that attitude. I'm not careful with what I say. Can you imagine if the doctor was like, imagine you going to the doctor's visit with like your significant other and the doctor comes out with a diagnosis being like, yeah, you know, ma'am, yeah, the thing with your husband's stomach, it could be diarrhea, it could be gonorrhea. I'm not too careful with what I'm saying. What? What?
First, effective immediately, the FDA will be notifying physicians that the use of let's see how we say that. Acetaminophen. Is that okay? Which is basically commonly known as Tylenol.
It's just a
During
brand.
Pregnancy can be associated with a very
Just that one brand.
increased risk of autism.
Alright, so I'm gonna jump in here because I expected that later on in the video, especially when RFK jumped into the fray, that we would have the actual breakdown of the science, but I could not be more wrong. As the man started comparing a neurological predisposition with carcinogenic contamination, comparing the study of smoking cigarette with autism, so I will save you the brain rot and actually explain what they found out in their trials. See, when you're pregnant, almost every drug on earth comes with a scary little warning label that makes the pregnant person feel as if I take this I might reduce some pain, but only if I enjoy rolling the dice with a tiny human in me. Acetaminophen, Tylenol for Americans, is one of the heroic few that scientists have generally given the thumbs up to. This means that every headache, fever, backache or bouts of I'm growing a human in me, pregnant women could reach out for the drug and take some of the pain away. Naturally, when millions of people are routinely chugging a specific pill, scientists get suspicious. Is it too safe or are we missing some data? And thus acetaminophen became a huge subject of interest. Some early and smaller studies started whisperings about a potential and very slight correlation between moms who took Tylenol and kids who later developed ADHD or autism. And so to figure out if they were onto something, the US National Institute of Health funded the largest study on acetaminophen and autism, ADHD, and intellectual disability ever done. And they did so in cooperation with Swedish scientists in order to gather and analyze data from a whopping 2.5 million children, logging their parents' usage of acetaminophen via antenatal and prescription records. Then they brought in the forensic team, an eye-watering list of potential suspects, aka covariates, including everything from where the baby was born to the parents' age and presumably whether or not they were using scented candles. Here's the punchline: if the research had stopped there, they would have also seen a tiny confusing correlation between Tylenol and the conditions. The early studies would have been validated, but no, these people are thorough. So they pulled out the big gun, which was sibling analysis. By comparing each child to their full sibling, they were essentially able to make the DNA and shared environment disappear from the equation, turning that into the ultimate control group. And when the dust settled on the 2.5 million files, the apparent risk of ADHD and autism vanished in thin air. So not only did the mega study declare that acetaminophen is not causing autism or ADHD, but it also brilliantly solved the mystery of the early studies. The correlation was never about the pills. It was about the unobserved genetic or environmental factors that was common to families who also happened to need Tylenol. What RFK and the other cronies showcased during that presentation was a review of the older studies that have no control, i.e. they support their biases. So in other words, the moral of the story of this will be that Tylenol is in fact safe, and if you want to know how to properly dismantle a statistical flaky claim, just ask about 2.5 million children and their siblings. That's not just good science, that's raising the bar so high that all the other studies need a ladder and a Sherpa. Now I'm back to the nonsense.
Is not good. All right, I'll say it. It's not good. For this reason, they are strongly recommending that women limit Tylenol use during pregnancy unless medically necessary.
This is a huge problem that I have with sometimes mainstream media, and that doesn't only account for the Republicans here, okay? The Democrats have done that too, whether it was with COVID when some stuff, parts of the vaccines and or boosters or so were not ready and were launched ahead of time without actually explaining what was truly happening and urging people to just do things, okay? So not to do the enlightened centrist thing here, but when it literally comes to science, the way in which we're supposed to deliver information to people is to come from the observation that leads to the conclusion. You don't deliver the conclusion first and foremost. You need to have people understand what is actually happening. Because I would have understood it if he came in with the angle of, let's say, TI, which is the therapeutic index, which is the scale of how much a drug can make you feel good or have you overdose on it. For example, what's a good example to take here? There is this compound called remifentanil, not to be confused with fentanyl. One of these is being used as an anesthetic during surgeries to relieve you of pain, and the other one will send you into outer Epstein. But the remifentanil has a TI of 33,000, where cocaine has a TI of 15. And try to guess now what acetaminophen has, what its TI is. Well, it's a varying one depending on the brand. It ranges from like 5, 10 or even 20. So slightly over cocaine. So in other words, I would expect an actual doctor or the actual expert to step forth and say that we have this and this step, we have observed this and this, and we know that if you take this amount, it is going to be damaging on you on like a cellular level. You're gonna have some changes in, I don't fucking know, your chromosome. You're gonna see some nucleotide polymorphism going haywire, which is kind of like that chromosomal markers or genetic markers for certain areas that actually can cause higher risk of autism. So perhaps if they went in and explained it that way, I would have been like, okay, sure, maybe there's something here, but not outright just go and say to people, don't take that shit. Why?
I think you shouldn't take it, and you shouldn't take it during the entire pregnancy. They may tell you that toward the end of the pregnancy, you shouldn't take it during the entire, and you shouldn't give the child the Tylenol every time he's born and he goes and has a shot.
What?
You shouldn't give a Tylenol to that child. All pregnant women should talk to their doctors for more information about limiting the use of this medication while pregnant. So ideally, you don't take it at all. But if you can't tough it out, or if there's a problem, you're going to end up doing it.
God, I hate the language used there. There's one thing that he said that kind of sounds half right. I'm a huge advocate of the fact that there are certain processes, like having a fever, that people perhaps should want to just let to ride it out. Simply because sometimes it's just your body responding to either inflammations or different things going on that it needs to tackle on its own. You having to take out a certain remedy, and especially a drug, is simply for you to accelerate that process. And it might not be the best thing for you, but because we always have to be as efficient as possible, we can't even lay in bed. So being precautionary about that and urging pregnant women to go and consult more of their doctors, it's a good advice to have, despite the fact that this administration has been cutting down on people's health care. And then that is also affecting pregnant women, so that's one thing. But the whole notion of you need to tough it out, like, what the fuck do you mean? Like, this is like the type of speech that a person who does not have a uterus would say. Because you do not understand the amount of unimaginable pain that a lot of women go through. And especially when it is that such things as painkillers, especially the likes of acetaminophen, has been like the most well-studied out of all of them.
And they pump so much stuff into those beautiful little babies, it's a disgrace. I don't see it. I think it's very bad. They're pumping, it looks like they're pumping into a horse. You have a little child, little fragile child, and you get a vat of 80 different vaccines, I guess, 80 different blends, and they pump it in. You'll do it over a period of 4 times or 5 times. I've been
They already
for so many years just because I couldn't understand how a thing like this could happen. And it's artificial.
That's because it's not happening. What the hell does this man even... what is he talking about? Most Western countries literally have a plan that you can look up in the government pages to see exactly how the vaccines are spread out. In Denmark, we have one that are like mandatory to the age of 12, spread out over 12 years, where in the US it's spread out over 18. These things are easily found.
I also, and we've already done this, we want no mercury in the vaccine. We want no aluminum in the vaccine. The MMR, I think, should be taken separately. This is based on what I feel. The mumps, measles, and the 3 should be taken separately.
The goal to say that while there's literally been a measles outbreak in the US again. Oh God. Do you care about your people? Bro, I can't take this shit. He literally has a document in front of him, with which I suppose is some written data. Why is he winging it? Dude said in this frame.
The MMR, I think, should be taken separately. This is based on what I feel. The mumps, measles.
Based on what I feel. Fuck. Yo, America is screwed. Oh my days.
Okay, when you mix them, something maybe happens. So there's no downside in doing it. It's not like, oh, if you do it, bad things. No, it's only good side. And it may not have that much of an impact, but it may have a big impact. So let those be taken separately. And then hepatitis B is sexually transmitted. There's no reason to give a baby that's almost just born hepatitis B.
Oh my
God.
God.
I would say wait till the baby is 12 years old and formed and take hepatitis B. And I think if you do those things, it's going to be a whole...
What do you mean by that? You knobhead. Hepatitis B is mostly spread from mother to child at birth. But most importantly, what do you mean by that, Trump? Huh? What's gonna happen to a 12-year-old? Listen, we haven't forgotten about those Epstein's files.
Proven bad. I mean, they've been proven bad with the aspirins and the Advils and others, right?
Oh,
and they've
God.
been proven bad. So I'd like to
This is
ask
so
Bobby
stupid.
to get up to the podium and say a few words, and then Dr. Bhattacharya and Dr. McCary, Dr. Oz, Dr. Fink, followed by 2 incredible mothers that have experienced firsthand what this country is going through, what parts of the world are going through. And I will say there are parts of the world that don't take Tylenol. I mean, there's a rumor, and I don't know
I wonder why.
if it's so or not, that Cuba, they don't have Tylenol because they don't have the money for Tylenol. And they...
First, of course, he would go for the one country that some people tend to mention as having universal healthcare despite not doing so well economically. But perhaps other countries don't make use of the same brand of acetaminophen as the US does with Tylenol because it is made by a different company. We use Panadol, I think is what ours is called, which is made by Haleon, a completely... Oh no, I just realized. He just called it Tylenol because he can't pronounce the scientific name. Oh no. And this is the thing. It is so easy to point out a problem. Oh, there are autistic kids being screened now. So there must be an autism epidemic, an autism crisis. And we can blame Big Pharma because it's always easy to throw it at some other nebulous entity. Let me give you a little bit of a primer on especially the crusade that RFK has been going on with for almost 30 years. Now, RFK has been the subject of my personal ire, especially through a video by Milo Rossi that I covered not too long ago. So if you want to watch that one, where he is very much culpable in the spreading of measles through Pacific Islanders communities, check that out. But one of his biggest sins, or biggest problem should I rather say, was the article that he wrote around 2005 called Deadly Immunity, where he claimed that vaccines contain mercury that caused autism because of this preservative that was called thimerosal. And here it's important to take into account the timeline. He wrote the article in 2005. The ingredient was used in the 90s, right? The preservative ingredients. And as he wrote this article, which was part of a Rolling Stone subsidiary called Salon. Actually, I'm gonna pull it out here, perhaps his Wikipedia page. There's nothing wrong with some Wikipedia when you need to do some rudimentary Google debunking against a person who spread some misinformation, because it's so simple. So Deadly Immunity is an article written by RFK Jr. It appeared in July 14th, 2005, issued by Rolling Stone and simultaneously on the website Salon. So I need to find it. There we go. I actually found it through Internet Archive in the past, where he writes about some incidents that would have happened that had caused some manufacturers to try and hide what was happening, claiming here that according to a CDC epidemiologist, oh my god, I can't fucking speak. According to a CDC epidemiologist named Tom Verstraeten, who had analyzed the agency's massive database containing a medical record of 100,000 children, a mercury-based preservative in the vaccines, thimerosal, appeared to be responsible for a dramatic increase in autism and a host of other neurological disorders amongst children. This was thoroughly debunked, especially because in 1999 the FDA did issue warning letters to vaccine producers across the US to make them understand that they had not found any conclusive studies of whether or not there was an actual connection between autism and the vaccine. And so for precautionary purposes, in that almost 6-year span, they were to remove the preservative from their vaccines. And according to this article here by The Nation, the publisher who published that article described it as being the worst mistake of my career. I probably should have been fired, but since Rolling Stone's founder, Jan Wiener, that's how we will say it, was on the Salon board at the time, that wasn't going to happen. Rolling Stone had taken responsibility for the arduous task of fact-checking. I had only been Salon's editor-in-chief for 4 months. We dutifully published corrections after corrections, for which they did 4 times. At the time, I thought that was the responsible thing to do, lift the piece up, but I seriously corrected in the name of transparency. It is a fine idea to have if you can with certainty think that people would actually read through the lines and not just flock to the thing that confirms their biases, as this became somewhat of a north light for the conspiracy theorists and the moms who cling to every single thing to blame a cause for autism. But remember how I said that the FDA in 1999 issued that warning for which they removed the preservative, the mercury-based preservative from it, because it is mercury that they're fear-mongering and RFK has been at it for quite some time. Well, autism rates did not fall with the preservative removed. It actually kept on rising, meaning that it was not the cause. Now, did that revelation stop RFK for continuing on that stupid-ass crusade? Absolutely not, because he wrote a book about it in 2014, for which, of course, he was still wrong. He's been at it wrong for over 20 years, pushing 30. Categorically wrong, again and again. And now, of course, he's the leader of the CDC. Like, America is so close right now to be watering their plants with Gatorade, or what is it that they're using in Idiocracy?
Tastes like Gatorade.
Is that Brawndo stuff? They're watering crops with a sports drink?
RFK Jr.'s fans are going to be so mad because they wanted a link to to the vaccine and not the drug. They're going to turn on him so bad. And also with regard to Tylenol, who are being singled out here, what the hell? Isn't this kind of like opening the floodgates to lawsuits when you are attacking a company that is supposedly going to be retaliating? Like, I don't know. One thing that I do know, however, is that it is kind of easy to make fun of this stuff, right? Because it's kind of impossible not to see the irony in all of this. Like a person who put themselves forth acting with this kind of like a mob boss mentality and think that they have control over everything while the world around them is crumbling, like that dog sitting in a fiery room. It's funny, but it's really sad because all of this creates just rift across the countries. Everybody who's supposed to be working alongside the US. It creates a people that are going to be more destitute, poorer, who are going to be less informed and just are seeded with so many seeds of doubt that they are going to be distrusting not just the institution, but each other. And there are of course argument to be made that this is all by design, there is an entire project centered around it, but like I understand that a lot of people don't want to talk politics and or dive into like real life subjects because escapism is kind of the best thing, the best way to cope through all of this, but you kind of need to get informed because that is the best way that you are gonna get through a situation like this and or reverse the cycle and hold these politicians accountable. That's what you're supposed to do. Anyway, just were my thoughts on the autism thing, for which I will say though, if you want to do something amazing, you should max your Tylenol with some Monster Energy drink if you want to open your third eye, brother, and access the next step of human evolution and become a real X-Man. Yeah! Anyways, folks, we shall have a wonderful day. See you guys in the next one. Bye.